It's time for the Voice of Reason podcast. Here are your hosts, Sean Phillips, Andy Van Beber, and Travis Kirkendall.
I think it's you, pal.
This is the Voice of Reason podcast. My name is Sean Phillips. As always, I am joined alongside my co-host, Mr. Andy J.
We must apologize. It has been, a hot minute, hasn't
it? Yes. No, it's been about 2 weeks, but I can say, thankfully, we have seen one another within that span of time. So
we knew we were alive. That was good.
Yeah. No, it's been good. We just kind of both had some just crazy. It's been a whirlwind of the last couple of weeks here. So
let's see, car accident, COVID again. Your family sick. So I think we've covered just about every base that we can possibly cover, really.
Yes. And I was actually, I just did it there at the urgent care today, at the orthopedic urgent care. I messed up my shoulder pretty bad yesterday. So yep. My youngest one is outside reminding me just to keep some ice on it and not go throwing stuff into the wind. But yes, so it has been quite the couple of weeks that have gone on. But we are alive, we are well, we are kicking, and we are creeping up. Just a couple weeks away, less than a month away from election season. And It's crazy how it feels, at least in my world, and just what I've seen, how we went from big on Trump over Biden to there was the big swing when Kamala took over to now it feels like that honeymoon phase has settled. And it feels like she is now on her heels a little bit more. And we're having arguments over who worked at McDonald's for longer and all kinds of great stuff has kind of been going.
And the size of Arnold Palmer's penis, too. So
Yes. So it has been quite the couple of weeks as we're getting ready to kind of wrap things up. Last week I did get, because of my address change, I did get my voter registration card in the mail, so I am excited to be able to vote here in a couple of weeks in my hometown. This will be the second time that I have voted in my little town of Whiteside. So
I was going to say, you're going to be. Do they have a polling place there in Whiteside?
They do. They do it at the one-room schoolhouse.
Okay,
that's up there on Highway Z. That is the polling station for Whitesideans. I don't think this year I'm not going to work at it, but I think in the future it'll be kind of one of the things that I'd like to do is actually work on those days and
now have they made
the polling.
Have they made that a federal holiday yet? Is it a federal?
So.
Huh?
I don't think so.
It is in Illinois. It is a state holiday in Illinois. All state workers have that day off.
That's good.
They encourage the voters. Of course, Janine has been getting just loads and loads and loads of stuff from the union. Who to vote for? Her union isn't. Many unions do this. They send out. Even though Missouri doesn't have a teachers union, MSTA sends out their emails to us on what issues to vote for and what to look for and what not to look for. But you and I were talking before we went on, and really, I think one of the things that I wanted to share first off the bat tonight is just how just really unsure. Unsure I am of this election. I wasn't. I thought going into 2020 that we were going to see a Trump, an incumbent Donald Trump win re-election. I honestly thought that. I thought, the COVID thing would be bad for him, but I don't think it would have been that bad. And then, we saw what happened. We saw January the 6th. And then going into this cycle, you asked me before the show, who do I think is, who's going to come out, who's standing on top, and quite honestly, it depends on what poll you look at, what day of the week you catch it on, and you see the last poll that I saw, I guess it was last week, 48-48, with that 2% or 4% or whatever, that 4% undecided, and I can honestly say I am in the undecided column, because I don't trust either candidate. I do not. To me, and we've said this 1,000 times on this podcast. I mean, we have played snippets, and we have played just minutes and minutes of Donald Trump clips of stuff that he has said that's just been totally off the wall. We have played stuff from debates. We have played stuff from his speeches. And then you have Kamala Harris, who cannot even answer a question to save her life, and I really am tired. I would love to see a political campaign where you don't tell me how bad the country's going to be if the other guy gets elected. Tell me
Right.
what you're going to do specifically to make things better. What are you going to do to make us a country that is respectable within the world community again, that makes us economically recover, that can make economic prosperity a thing again? Because I've in this discussion we've had before too. I mean, I've been a year now just living. I mean, usually I had enough money that could carry me over from paycheck to paycheck, and now just scraping by. This last year and a half, we've scraped by on every paycheck, and from time to time, living off credit cards. And I want somebody to tell me what are you going to do to make things. I mean, tell me that you're going to improve the tax code. Tell me that you're going to help the middle class. I don't care. At this point, I really don't care what you do for the wealthy. Okay. I'm wanting solid answers that I can move forward with, because I'm 5.5 years from retirement, and I want to know, am I going to work into my 70s in order to be able to afford to live, or what? That's kind of where I'm at with this whole thing.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I feel you. And that's kind of like, we were again talking a little bit about the situation going into the episode, and like you had mentioned, talking about these tariffs and what it's going to do to, in theory, like when Trump is saying, "Oh, I'm going to have China pay for everything. I'm going to have these other countries pay for anything," and not really going into detail when he's talking about how he's gone into other countries, and yeah, Lillian is all about it too. She's also loud. I'm not sure if you can hear that, but how there are
Are you there, Sean? I lost your audio, buddy.
Oh,
There you go. Now I got you.
okay. And how he changed the deal that we had with the Japanese and how it was so bad for America, but he didn't go into detail into why. Like believe it or not, the American people are not that stupid, and the why is pretty important. And so just saying that you're going to have other countries pay tariffs for goods that are being shipped and sold in the United States, it doesn't matter. Like they will take those goods elsewhere. Like it's just how the world works. Obviously, yes, they're still going to sell things here in America, but they're
At a
going to
high
be
price.
an exorbitant rate and we are already feeling the effects of what inflation is doing to our economy. So if you raise tariffs on these other nations and goods go up, we already have people that are struggling to afford daily necessities, and those daily necessities are going to get more expensive with these tariffs. Now, I can also say that Kamala Harris's plan doesn't resolve this issue either. This is a long-standing issue that we are seeing, and it's going to take time. And I'm with you. I think that we are one thing that we do need to take a look at, though, that I mean, this is just from the little bit of kind of looking around at things that I've been looking around at. We are not the only quote unquote Western civilization that is dealing with these economic factors that are really hurting. Like it's the same way in Canada. It's the same way in Europe. It's all up and down Europe and Great Britain and Italy and even countries like Ireland. The economy is down across the world in civilizations that typically have more of a free market like we do. I'm interested to see. I don't know. I'm not going to act like I do. I'm interested to see what the middle class, lower class life looks like in countries like China, and that those nations, that are producing these mass goods that we, are not able to afford. They're producing it. What is their middle class looking like? What is their life looking like? What's it? I know that Japan is going through an economic struggle right now as well. So it's not just us. It's not just one place. But Americans are definitely feeling it. How better or worse off than other countries that I can attest to. Have not looked at those statistics, but in just things I've seen and read briefly, we are not the only ones feeling the heat from the oven.
Just a little bit off from the Reuters poll this weekend. I just pulled it up. So this was concluded. So this was today is the yeah. So this was released today. Kamala Harris has a lead of 46-43 over Donald Trump. But you also had the electorate who said that we are on this poll. Reuters Ipsos poll said also that we're on the wrong track economically. Some 70% of the registered voters in the poll said their cost of living was on the wrong track, while 60% said the economy was heading in the wrong direction, and 65% said the same of immigration policy. Voters also said that the economy and immigration, together with threats to democracy, were the country's most important problems. Asked which candidate has the better approach to issues, Trump led on the economy 46-38 and on immigration 48-35. But Trump fared poorly on the question of which candidate was better to address political extremism and threats to democracy, with Harris leading 42-35. And that's another concern that I have. And I shared with you guys, or I've heard Travis shared. Travis shared with us. What day was that last week? I forgot. But Travis shared with us in our group chat this gentleman who spoke on what he called the Trump cult. And I think there's some people who are honest to goodness people who look at things with a critical eye and just honestly say, you know what, I think policy-wise, Trump is the guy who's got the better, the better chops. But yet, some of these people who I know, who I've, who I'm friends with, who people who just the blind. If you were to hold them down and say, okay, tell me why you're voting for Trump,
Mhm.
and they can't. They just, well, he's better. He's better. Example, what?
Mhm.
You know, where you and I live at here in the midst of red country, I mean, and we have a lot of, and we have a lot of educated folks who watch this show.
Yeah.
I mean, when, you know, we have our buddy Colby, we have our buddy Martin, Jonathan, who watches a lot, you know, Alex Ellison, these are the guys who look at the issues and say, okay, I mean, if we were to have Colby on here, we were to have Jonathan on here, well, we need to have Martin back on again. But these are the guys who would tell you, okay, here's reason one, here's reason two, here's reason three, here's reason four, here's reason five,
Mhm.
and they could give us a laundry list. But what I'm afraid of is that large portion of the electorate who are very uneducated about, you know, you just say these issues that I just read off here, you know. I mean, they're going to say, everybody's going to say immigration because that is the thing that Trump touts on the most.
Mhm.
Everything is tied to immigration in some way, shape, or form. The drug issue, the crime issue, you know, and I'm not denying that at all. I'm not
Yeah.
denying that at all. But when you go to the point to where a town in Ohio has to shut down, literally have to shut down the town because people are, you know, they're eating the cats when they're eating the dogs. I mean, we played that sound bite and everything. You know, and you're playing on that fear. You know, and
The
people
same thing
people are
with
and people
like
buy it.
in Aurora, where you know he nailed that statement down like 4 times in a podcast that I listened to him speak on, where you know how. But again, it's just in Aurora. In Aurora, the Venezuelan mafia is, you know, taking over the
Oh, in
crime there.
Colorado, yeah, yeah.
And it's just like, okay, but like, and now I will say, JD Vance did a phenomenal job um, in an interview that was being conducted. I think it was Fox, and where they were like, whoever, I don't remember the reporter's name, but she was like, you know, well, you guys are making this sound like it's this reoccurring thing where, you know, we have one example of a, you know, incident where there might have been gang activity from, you know, this group of people, and he was just like, I'm gonna stop you right there. He's like, one is all that you need. Like, are you hearing yourself? Like, we'd rather have none. Like, what is worse? Like, other things that are being said or this thing that's true. And so, but yeah, I mean, it's a little bit of like, yes, these things are bad. They are not well, in most instances, they're not quite as bad as they're being chalked up to be. It is not like there is a armed cartel and, you know, military vehicles patrolling Aurora. That, you know,
Right.
no. In the same sense, it is crazy that, you know, the police are not doing more. So I get this. So fun fact for you. This is from the mouths of the WBRA news. Don't quote me on that. I'll get that. In Louisville, Kentucky, I was on the news last night in Louisville, Kentucky.
Yeah, you
10
were.
p.m. our time. I was, and so to make a very long story short, for Tony's and mine's wedding, we were gifted a gift card from Home Depot. Well, when we went to use the gift card at the Home Depot, it only had a couple pennies on it. Like, I opened it there. It was one of not a gift card that sits outside the packaging, but one that was like
That hangs up on the like
ones.
Yeah.
Actually, I might, as crazy as it sounds, I might actually. Okay, so right here, it was this. It was literally this. It was a $200 gift card. The gift card sat inside here, as you can see, there's nothing for me to peel off. So in the store, I opened this. It had been purchased. I opened it. I pulled this off. I scratched the thing off. I go to put it in. It says it only has a couple pennies on it. So I'm like, well, this is crazy. The staff, they were very friendly, got me taken care of. I finally got that squared away today. They gave me store credit.
Good for you. That's good.
But they were like, oh, like this card's been used at several different like stores already, is what it said. So what happened was, so in Louisville, I found this out yesterday. They arrested like 4 individuals, and I don't know if I need to look more at the article, but I don't remember if they said they were getting some of these things from China or if these guys were Chinese. I do not remember. This is just me playing telephone, but they arrested 4 individuals who just had hundreds and thousands of these gift cards. That essentially how it was working was they were taking these gift cards, putting them on racks in stores. And they're advanced enough to where if a company scammed them, it would register like it was one of theirs. People would pay, the company would get their money, but instead of that money going to the gift card, it would take minutes, and whoever the hackers were that made those gift cards, they had the money. And so, like crazy situation, but they busted a couple of individuals. And so they talked to me. Well, the news folks have been talking, and the chief of police of Louisville is trying to get the FBI involved, and the FBI will not get involved. Do you want to know why the FBI won't get involved?
I'm afraid to ask.
Because they are still too busy. Mind you, this is what the FBI told state police in Louisville, Kentucky. They are too busy to assist with the investigation because they are still too busy working on investigations about January 6th.
Oh my.
Yep. So it's one of those, yeah. And and we have not gone. I think one of a good episode for us, maybe right before the election, or maybe right after, we'll be kind of deep diving in, kind of blurring, what is fact and fiction about January 6th, because I know me personally, I am starting to see a lot of things where people that have done time in prison for January 6th, and then the video footage of kind of what they did while they were there, and it's like, does this guy deserve to be in jail for 5 years? Based off this, little things like that. Obviously, you go strolling in, you have the actions of your consequences, but it sounds like there were people that were just there that day.
By the way, those 4 gentlemen were Chinese.
Okay, that's what I thought.
It was 4 men, a Chinese name, a Chinese name, a Chinese name, and a Chinese name. One of New York, 2 of them from New York and 2 of them are from California.
Yep. So, and the way that apparently that they did this, like I said, is they would take the gift cards, they would go to so the person that bought me the gift card bought it from a Kroger. And they have the gift card sections there at Kroger, is they would just literally go up, put them right there, and then people grab them, and they're advanced enough to, like I said, where they work. The store doesn't pick up that they're not their product, and by the time those people get home, that money's already gone.
Yeah. That's amazing, though, that the FBI can't help out because it's...
Yeah, they're too busy with with the insurrection investigation still.
At this point, though, what... Now that we're 2 weeks away from the election, and 2 weeks, we're sorry, folks, we're not live tonight. We're recording this on Tuesday, but as of today, the 22nd, we're 2 weeks away from the election. And I've noticed within the last, and Sean, you can correct me if you think that I'm missing the boat on this, but within the last month, I've heard nothing of any of the Trump legal battles. I haven't heard a thing.
I haven't either.
And, I thought that this was I've said from the beginning, Has Trump broken the law? Yes, he's broken the law on some things. He was indicted. He's an indicted. He's felon. Okay, and he is any of it stuff that's going to land him in prison. I've said this before. Donald Trump's not going to see the inside of a jail cell ever in his life at all. Now, all of his flunkies are getting thrown under the bus. I saw today that Rudy Giuliani had to surrender. A judge in New York made him surrender his ownership of his Manhattan apartment to the two election workers in Georgia that he defamed. And he's also they're thinking that he's going to have to. He's got a place, I think, in Palm Beach that he's going to have to give up, and possibly they even said this, that 4 championship rings from the New York Yankees. He claims that his father has given to him, but they're because he owes these people $150 million, and this all comes back to me that this is why I'm on such the borderline of who to vote for. I'm not, I don't think that, I think in the end I'm more than likely going to do my libertarian thing and waste my vote, because to me it is a matter of conscience. When somebody says, well, you need to vote for the lesser of two evils. Okay, listen to what you're saying right there.
Why do we have to have evils?
Why do we have to have evil? Why? And you mentioned J.D. Vance earlier. I want to tell you something. Tim Walz and J.D. Vance are a breath of fresh air to me, because when I watched the debate, I got a whole new level of respect for both of those guys. Number one, because they were civil. Number two, they knew how to answer questions. They didn't have to, Sean. They didn't have to be political at all. Now there was some aspects of politics when they gave their answers, but to hear those guys actually be civil and be cordial to each other and be able to, I hadn't seen anything like that since John McCain ran against Barack Obama. I hadn't seen anything like that since then. And just to see these two guys get up there and just say, well, yep, for J.D. Vance to get up there and say, yes, we do have a gun problem in the United States today. Yes, we do. And Governor Walz will agree with me in saying that we need to do something. We need to do more to fix this problem. Common ground. He found common ground, and this is exactly what the political parties want. And this is what our founding fathers were terrified of. George Washington in 1796. Does that sound right? 1796, in his farewell address to the nation, George Washington warned about the bane, and his words were this isn't the exact quote, but it was along this line. He warned people against what he called the baneful effect of the spirit of the party. Okay. Now, what George Washington was seeing at that time was, you had the Jefferson had pretty much he was already out of his post as ambassador to France. And he's working like a madman to get this party of his going. Okay? Because there was this branch of people who you've heard of in history before, called, who were the anti-federalists, who were didn't like the way the Constitution was written, the way it was, and it was how much power it had given to the federal government. And that's another story for another day. And then on the other side on the other side of that coin, you have John Adams, who was a Federalist through and through. He was for he was the wise guy in the room at the time, because he was like, after what we've been through under the Articles of Confederation, and so back to what I was saying though, Washington saw this rising. Washington saw this problem from afar off, and even some of his compatriots, what was James Madison was Secretary of State, and he was also Thomas Jefferson's Secretary of State, and James Madison talked about, James Madison was not a fan of political parties either, because he said, in all these small states, he talked about how the states were run by he called them factions. They were really political parties. And he said, what you end up happening in these smaller democracies and these smaller republics, like in a state or in a county, you have this, what he called the tyranny of the majority, where you have you have the controlling force who basically squashes out all of the opposition. Okay. Mm-hmm. And in doing so, you only get one side, and you have the majority who is ruling and the minority who has no rights. And so what James Madison wanted to do was, he said he wanted to, and what he called it was enlarging the sphere, making a larger republic. And in his mind, having a bigger government, having a federal system, a federal government. And he believed, and at that time, James Madison believed, that if we created this large system, it would be difficult for a tyranny of the majority in a large republic to exist. I don't think James Madison, in his wildest nightmares, could look forward and see what has happened to our current democratic system, because if you read any of the Federalist Papers, if you want to, I forgot the name of his other paper that he wrote during the Articles of Confederation. I can't think of it right now, but I've read excerpts from it.
Heads up before you start your holiday shopping. Police saying that gift cards.
That was actually your news story. But
nice.
He never imagined that. He thought, there's no way that one group can get a hold of the majority. Mm-hmm. But yet here we are, and we're at this point in our country, and you can go back through history, back to, it goes in ways. You could start back when Thomas Jefferson created the Democrats. Then it went into this whole Jackson, Andrew Jackson ran unopposed in politics in 2 elections. He ran unopposed. It was called the era of good feeling. And then along comes this little upstart party called the Republicans. And then the Republicans win. And then they win again. And then they win. You had one Democrat, Grover Cleveland, who ran won during that spread. And then you had Woodrow Wilson later on in the 1920s who won. The only Democrat who ran. So that whole period from Lincoln all the way up to Hoover was dominated by the Republicans. Okay? Now, then you go from the Great Depression all the way forward to Kennedy, and it was Democrats, just Democrat, with the exception of Eisenhower in there. Now, here we are. Since Kennedy, we've been flip-flop, and we don't have any one. We have been so fickle, and we are on this razor-thin margin that we were on way back in the mid-1800s. That, you can't say anything, you can't do anything too extreme, or else you're going to piss a group of voters off and you lose your electorate. Mm-hmm. So, I'm sorry, I was ranting and raving there. So,
no, you're good, because I think you really did hit a lot of kind of what we've been talking about on the head. Where I am hoping, and I will just be hopeful and hoping and not expect it to kind of come to fruition anytime soon. But I am hoping that come next election, we do see a little bit more of I just hope that we flush it out. I do have a feeling that God, in 4 years, if Kamala does not win,
what's that do to the Democratic Party?
I already think I know who their nominee is in 4 years if Kamala does not win.
Michelle Obama?
Michelle Obama.
Yeah.
Yep. I 100% think that Michelle Obama would be the Democratic nominee if Kamala doesn't win. Obviously, if Kamala wins, then in 4 years, again, this is how I think. If Kamala wins now and goes up for re-election in 4 years, she would lose. I don't necessarily think that what she has planned is going to be very much different from what is going on right now, regardless of what she would like to say, which is ironic because Kamala, is very good at letting us know that she was born in the middle class. She grew up in the middle class. And I know you laugh, and I say it as a joke, but
that's her lead in with every.
Yeah. You would not believe the questions she is asked, where she starts or ropes to, when I grew up in the middle class, and goes on. But seriously, I think that what I find funny right now is the amount of when she's asked, hey, you are acting vice president right now. Why have you, if you talk about these are the changes you're going to make, why have you not been vocal about it now? And then it's there was when she just did the Fox interview where they're talking to her about her administration's policies, like the policies that they have enacted that are not working. And you want to know what she...
Oh, I lost your sound again, Sean. No. There you go. Now I gotcha.
Now, okay.
Yeah.
And she, they go, well, these are your policies, and legitimately she looks at him and says, well, you know the individual we're running against. And he goes, that's not the question I asked. And she goes, well, it's a lot on him. And he's like, no. We're not. Donald Trump has not sat in office for almost 4 years. What are we talking about here? And so the things that she wants to change things, but things are already better under Biden than they were under Trump. It's just it's crazy. I am interested too for both parties how. We saw it for a little bit, then it kind of went away for a bit, but now we're seeing it again is kind of the big push right now of the Democrats that we're seeing is Trump.
I lost you again.
Something.
There you go. I don't know what you did there.
Okay. I don't know.
Anyway,
but there's a lot of talk of Trump's cognitive decline. And but one of the things that I'm starting to read, and this is through a couple of different reports that I've seen, is there's a lot of folks, like staffers, that are leaving Kamala Harris's campaign because of how she is acting to staffers behind the scenes, which I'm interested to see.
Yeah,
I'm not sure if that's something that you've seen as well, but I've seen a couple articles on. I wanted your opinion on, and I am not the subject matter expert. I know it happens every year, but is it the, hold on, what is the event called? The Alfred Smith Memorial Dinner. What was up with her decision to miss what is seemingly a might not seem like it's too important of an event to many people, but apparently it is a pretty big
the Alfred
for folks in the Catholic denomination.
The Alfred Smith, it's the Al Smith dinner. It's basically it's an event that is used to raise. It's an annual event that's used to the second or third Thursday of October. And they do this to raise money for Catholic charities, supporting, kids within the Archdiocese in New York. And Trump was at this. Trump was at the last one. She, however, she was
At a
absent.
campaign rally elsewhere.
Yeah, and Trump. I mean, and Trump. And you had, like I said, John McCain. I think John McCain and Barack Obama were the last two. No. Mitt Romney and Barack Obama were there together at that one too, and so it's a good. It's one of those.
It seemed very much like the Correspondents' Dinner.
Yeah, and it gives an opportunity for the two sides to appear together on a common front. And this is, like I said, I think this is, if I remember, let me look here. I think this has gone on. Yeah, so this started back in 1960 with Kennedy.
Mm-hmm.
They just said some of the history here. 1976, Jimmy Carter and Gerald Ford both spoke. 80, Carter and Reagan. 88, Bush and Dukakis. 2000, Al Gore and George W. Bush. 2008, Barack Obama, John McCain. 2012, John McCain or Barack Obama and Mitt Romney. Okay, 2016, Hillary and Donald both were there. Mm-hmm. And 20. Okay, so 2020, Trump and Joe were both there. Mm-hmm. Okay, but this is the first time that apparently that the two haven't been there. Mm-hmm. And you're just kind of and it said Donald Trump has appeared at the last 2016, 2020, 2024.
Mm-hmm.
So
and what's crazy to me is again, this is all just from news reports that I have read, so I cannot say that these are accurate. But I have seen that it was a decision that the Harris campaign made because they didn't want her to attend the meeting, because they didn't want her appearance there to essentially ostracize or be disrespectful to certain members of the LGBTQ community, is what I am seeing. Right. But if you look at it, too, yeah. So this is, according to the Pew Research Center, there are roughly 52 million Catholic adults in the United States. That's 20% of the U.S. adult population. Mm-hmm. And that percentage has been stable for the past decades. So that is a rather large, substantial, and a pretty large group that you would want to say, hey, this is kind of the group that we really should be trying to make an impact on. And I'm interested to see if, I don't really know. I've asked like two Catholics that I know that are Catholics, and they were like, we already knew who we were going to vote for. It wouldn't matter who showed up to the dinner or what was for dinner. But
excuse me.
But here's the deal. So you take 20% of the United States population of Catholics, and this is according to the Williams Institute, as of 2021, this is an estimate that there are only 13.9 LGBTQ, or only 5.5% of U.S. adults identified. So you are essentially, picking and choosing your battles, picking and choosing of who you're trying to appeal to more. But in the same sense, I don't think that many folks in the Catholic community truthfully really cared. Maybe it's one of those things where they might not have cared until it actually happened, because it's really never been an issue. Versus I'm pretty sure the LGBTQ community would have been like, this is just a thing that they do. Like, it's not a crazy, harrowing thing. And I don't think that all LGBTQ individuals also think that just because someone is Christian, that it means that they are ostracizing their lifestyle, their choice, themselves. Is just both are parts of life.
You are aware, do you know what group is the most targeted group of voters that both sides try to get? The biggest group of swing voters. Who would you think that would be?
Is it black voters?
No, women.
Oh,
women,
yeah.
women have statistically shown. I was reading something about this. Statistics have shown that women tend to vote more based upon issues and where the candidates stand on issues than men do. Men tend to fall into the demographic that they vote the way the family does, either the family, the religion, the workplace, or what others their friends do. Women have been, over the last 3 or 4 elections, women have been the target vote. And I thought on Saturday Trump totally dropped the ball. He has that female town hall meeting that he had. It was either Saturday or Friday. And they started asking him questions. And something happened in the crowd. I don't know if somebody had passed out or something happened in the crowd. And Trump goes on this 40-minute, like he's like being the DJ, and he's asking for different songs to play, and he's just up there dancing.
Yeah, and I am. Whenever I also saw that it was essentially, it boiled down to, it looked like there was an emergency in the crowd. So that was kind of why that had gone on, and I don't know if it meant to go on that long, but that was one of the things where, who God only knows what the actual situation was.
And that's, between that with Trump, between that the women's town hall meeting, then you had the whole thing, him working at McDonald's and doing the fry thing yesterday, and and then you had the comments that he made in Pennsylvania last week about Arnold Palmer, and he's a real man, and he's basically making innuendos about the man's penis. And I'm like, tell me what you want to do. That's the one thing, and I'm not saying I'm going to go out and vote for Kamala Harris. But I haven't heard a lot, like you said earlier, I haven't heard a lot of substantive stuff that she said. She's talked about, hey, I'm going to, I want to give what was it, $6,000 in tax credits during the first so many years of your children's life, and tax incentive and all this other stuff. Okay, that's something that I could look at and say, well, okay, that's something. But I have yet to hear, and again, this goes back to my comment that I made at the beginning of the show. I want to hear something. I want to hear something from both people. The fact that we only had one debate, and I have brain rot from that debate because I learned absolutely nothing from that debate. So, that brings us full circle back to where we're at. I don't think that we're going to, have any. We're not. I will make this prediction right now. We will not know who the president is. I will give it at least a week before we know. I would say a week before. So the election's in 2 weeks. 2 weeks from today. I give it a week to 2 weeks before we get a final, because I think it's going to come down to the absentee ballots. You're going to have a lot of challenge ballots, regardless of which side wins. And I think this is going to go for both sides. I think if Trump wins, I can see the Democrats challenging the legitimacy of the vote. If the Democrats win, I definitely can see the Republicans challenging the legitimacy of the vote.
Yeah. I'm already seeing footage. Now, again, this is this is just what I am seeing when I am casually on the internet, so do not take it. But where there are already claims, where this was in Texas, there was a polling station where folks on their, were clicking Trump on their ballot box on their computers, and when, I guess the way that this one works is you put it in and then it would print out your
receipt,
your voter sheet.
Yeah.
And there were apparently like numerous cases. Again, this is all just from people talking, the news, the video that I saw. There were numerous individuals that were like, I put Trump and it's printed out Harris on my thing. So even if that's just a load of hogwash, it still just begs the question of why can't we just do paper pen, so we don't have to worry about glitches and all that jazz. It's quite something. But
there's a whole I just Googled that, and there is there's no proof of illegal, there's no proof of voter fraud that is occurring. The Texas the Attorney General of the state of Texas is on this. Then the Heritage Foundation is doing their thing. What's Texas AFT? I don't know what Texas AFT is. There's not rampant voter fraud in Texas. This was published 2 weeks ago. It's starting. Yay!
Yep. And then so it's funny because you say that's on Google, and then I'm here on DuckDuckGo, and the first thing is Dallas County election addresses poll book glitch on first day of in-person early voting. So and I guess like they were running into a lot of things where it was looks like the glitch wasn't so much, hey, it's switching over who you're voting for, but it was causing voters to have a very long wait, which was causing people to get discouraged potentially. Now I can say right here also says turnout was lower on Monday compared to the first day of in-person voting in the 2020 presidential election.
Yep, I'm seeing that too.
I am thankful though that we are not going to be seeing as many mail-in ballots this time around. That is something that I am actually very glad we are not going to be seeing. Let's see here, CBS 19. Yep. So no, votes for Donald Trump are not being marked as votes for Kamala Harris in North Texas. So,
yeah. So,
gotta love it. We're in the swing. It's the holiday season, my friend.
Hey, and when I know we're still in the fourth season, but you know what? We need to, folks. I want your input because come February, we will be celebrating 5 years of the Voice of Reason podcast. 5 years in February of the Voice of Reason podcast. And we have hinted about our folks at McDinger say that. I mean, let us know if you would be interested in coming out and seeing the show live and see how just terrible we are in person. Just
it's the place to be.
That would be the place to be. But man, this is going to be one for the books, Sean. This is going to be one 100%. For the books to watch this whole thing unfold. So
it is, and to our listeners, just stick with us because we are on the ride with you. We might have a little bit more piss and shit in our lap than the rest of you, but we are still riding that train. So, but again, be a friend, tell a friend, make sure that you find us wherever you guys get your podcast. And again, just right now, especially with it being an election season, I tell you what, next week our plan will be, if you are a Missouri voter, our plan will be to kind of go over some of little bit of what's fact, what's fiction about some of the propositions that are coming up, so that when you do go to the polls, you have a better idea and you're not just informed of what your neighbor's sign says. You kind of have a little bit more of a background. So, Now, although I will end it with this. My favorite political sign that I have seen, and I know the last couple of weeks I've been hard on the Harris and Waltz campaign, but I would say they're both morons. I'd say on the other side of the coin, they're also both pretty stupid. So But my favorite sign that I've seen was in Hannibal, and it was like, this is what a parasite tick looks like, like a big old tick. And then it was like, this is.
Oh, you went silent again. Sean, no, you went silent again. No. Oh, my.
Tell me when it's back.
There you go. Okay, now you're back.
Well, this is what a parasite tick is, and it was a picture of a tick. And I was like, this is what a lunatic looks like. And it was a picture of Kamala Harris. It was actually rather amusing. Yes. Yes. But it was just funny because it was blasted right in front of the high school. So.
Yeah.
Yes. But again, be a friend, tell a friend.
Yeah.
And we will talk with you guys next week.
We'll see you guys.
Thanks for listening to the Voice of Reason podcast. Check out our previous shows and clips on Facebook, YouTube, and TikTok.